Join me in the kitchen today and I'll show you my recipe for scalloped potatoes, a great side dish for any occasion. Hi everyone, welcome to today's episode of Let's Celebrate TV. I'm your host, Peter Lee. It's autumn, finally, and it's cooled down and we're back home in LG Manor. So since it's nice cool weather again, I thought I'd make a great warming comfort dish, scalloped potatoes. First thing I have here is my pan, which is a 9x13 casserole. You can go bigger, you can go smaller, whatever you have. Now I've just put some butter in the bottom, and that will help everything brown and be delicious. We'll put this aside for right now. Next we have to prepare all of our vegetables. You hear it on TV, the mise en place. And I have my trusty mandolin here. Now, if you remember, you saw me use the mandolin back in the summer in the cucumber episode. We're going to use it again today. We're going to be using the guard, and I'm going to show you how fast it is to cut a potato. How fast is that? Now they're all perfectly the same thickness, which is exactly what we want for good scalloped potatoes. So let's put these here. We're done with the mandolin, so off it goes. Next, we need onions. Now I've already sliced up a couple of onions. This is really just one very large onion, but I'll show you how I did it. I just cut it in half through the root end, peeled it. Now this root end will hold it together. You've seen me do this before. And we're just going to go down in perfect slices. Now with the onions, they don't need to be the perfect same consistency like the potatoes do because they're going to get very, very soft. Okay, that will do. We'll put all these. I also have here some chives. These will add to the onion flavor. It's very pretty, and I've just chopped them up. Very easy. You've seen me do that. Okay, that's our vegetables all ready. Next is the sauce. All right, now for the sauce. I've got a lot of stuff here. I'm going to make a bechamel sauce. Bechamel is a white sauce. Maybe your mother made it with biscuits and gravy. Who knows? But it starts with butter and flour. I have 2 sticks of salted butter, plain old butter, into the pan to melt. While this melts down, we're going to add in our flour. Now I have equal amounts, 16 tablespoons of butter to 16 tablespoons of flour, which works out to be a little more than a cup. So we're just going to start sprinkling this in, let it all cook down and melt together. What you don't want is this to brown and cook. You just want it to combine. So what we're actually making here is a roux. And a roux is going to be the building block and it's going to be what thickens our sauce. If we were doing a gumbo, we would cook the roux very, very dark, but we want this to be a white sauce. So we're just going to cook it down really till the flour taste comes out and it's just all combined. We're just going to stir this up while the butter melts. Takes a couple minutes, but patience. will be rewarded. Alright, so we're just going to let this continue to cook for another 30 seconds or so because, like I say, you want that flour taste cooked out. You don't want it to darken, but you don't want it to taste as just plain old flour either. Now for the milk. I have half a gallon of milk. You may not need all of that, but I find I often do because I like to have a lot of this sauce. So we're just going to start adding it slowly, a little bit at a time. And we're just going to keep stirring this. And what will happen, you see it's already starting to turn white and thicken up. But you don't want to add it all at once because that might actually be too much. It sometimes varies. If it's a humid day, you might not need as much. If it's a dry day, you may need to add a little more. Just keep stirring. Now don't worry if it looks a little lumpy now and then. That'll all work out from all the butter fat and the milk fat. And this, by the way, is whole milk. Some people like to go extra rich and use heavy cream. I prefer whole milk. All right. So while this is cooking also is a great time to add some seasoning. Salt and pepper, pinch of salt, grind of pepper. Don't worry that there's flakes in your white sauce. No one will notice. And here is an interesting ingredient, nutmeg. This I buy whole nutmeg. And that's what it looks like. And this I find is far better than the pre-ground stuff. It's a little more expensive, but it's worth it if you can find it. And I just use my microplaner and grate some in. The great thing is you don't need to use as much as if you use the pre-ground stuff. It's not even a teaspoon, but it's a lot stronger. And when you're done, right back in the jar. And what does the nutmeg do? You're probably going to think like, oh, it's going to make it taste like a cookie. It really doesn't. It just adds more depth and more roundness to what could be a rather bland sauce. So it just gives more of that flavor. So this sauce is what's going to make our scalloped potatoes so creamy and wonderful. A lot of people think that scalloped potatoes have cheese in them. And really, traditionally, it doesn't. That would be potatoes au gratin. Some of you may put cheese in your scalloped potatoes, but I do not. And you'll see you don't need it. All right, I think this is about ready. So turn off the heat. Next up, we're going to start assembling our scalloped potatoes. Alrighty, now it's time to start assembling. I have my buttered dish all ready. Now we just start layering in potatoes. Just like a deck of cards. Just going to put them in and cover the bottom. They don't even have to be all the same size slices. It doesn't matter. We're just going to make sure the bottom's nice and covered. All right. Next, some slices of onions. Just a few. I'll break these apart a little bit. You can add as many as you like or not like. I like a lot of onions, so I'm going to use a good amount. Some chives for the prettiness factor, and this will give it a little grassy note and increase that onion flavor. Salt and pepper, because potatoes need a lot of salt. And then finally, a ladle of our sauce. Now this is kind of like you do with lasagna, same type of principle. Just kind of spoon it out. You don't have to cover it completely because you're going to keep adding to it and it's all going to work its way through. So That's the first layer done. I'm going to keep going. So here we are. This is about the final layer. I'll make this one a little neater, or at least I'll try. All right. Onions and chives, a bit of salt, pepper. Now we can be generous with really generous with the bechamel. Alrighty. Just for prettiest factor, let's put a little more chives right on top. Now, into the oven, 375 degrees. I'm going to cover this with foil and pop it in the oven. It's going to bake 45 minutes. Then I'll take it off and I will leave it in the oven for another half an hour at least. Alrighty. Here we are. Our scalloped potatoes are out of the oven. Look how golden brown and delicious they are. Now, if you remember, a few weeks ago we had a dinner party where I made my butternut squash soup recipe and the stuffed loin of pork that was stuffed with spinach and red peppers and cheese, and we had this scalloped potatoes with it. It was the perfect menu and very easy to do. Now I'm going to have a little test. Now I'm going to scoop this out. It came out of the oven and I let it sit for about 10 to 15 minutes because if you take it out and eat it right away, it's going to be maybe a little soupy and fall apart. If you give it a little time, it will bulk back up, kind of like lasagna does. So hopefully I've given this enough time to bulk up. Oh yeah, look at that. Now how delicious does that look, really? I'm going to have a little taste. Sheer comfort. That's wonderful, wonderful stuff on a cold autumn night. And of course, some wine to wash it down. All right, guys, as always, we're going to put this recipe in the YouTube video description section, as well as links to any other products that we talked about. You know, like the mandolin and the nutmeg. So ask us any questions. Let us know what you think in the comment section. And I'm wondering, what would you serve your scalloped potatoes with? Or how would you take this recipe and change it up a bit? You know, you could add some diced ham or bacon or whatever you like to it. Now remember, hit the like button so everyone knows that you enjoyed the episode. And so you don't ever miss a single one, make sure you subscribe. I say it every time, subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. And hit that notification bell so you always are told when our new episodes come out. Now, again, check us out at any old time at youtube.com/Let's Celebrate TV. That's all the time we have for today. I'm your host, Peter Lee. Cheers.